Okay, let's move on to our second presentation on the realm of air. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into the effects of air on the other elements within our bodies, because as within, so without. So just to recap, air as a divine conduit, it is seen as a carrier of life force and energy, facilitates communication between the material and the divine. The breath, often considered a sacred manifestation of air, is symbolic of the vital link between the physical and spiritual self. And that's really important for you guys to remember. And the concept of air as a divine conduit underscores its role in spiritual rituals, prayer, and meditation, acting as a bridge that transcends the tangible and reaches towards the transcendent. So we talked last time about air as a divine conduit, and we need to really remember that and take that in during the rest of this. Okay, so these next slides are going to be focusing on the effects of air on the different elements. And of course, these elements correspond to different elements within the body and also in the metaphysical realm. So that is also important too. And I actually think I took out air as spirit because I was like, air and water, right? So I want you to think about what water is within the body. What does the element of water correspond to in the metaphysical realm? But the effect of wind on water is absolutely amazing. It makes ripples, it makes waves, and it does make currents across oceans, lakes, and rivers. So that is just lets you know how strong wind actually is. Wind can create extremely powerful waves of varying heights. So it can be, anything. You ever seen what's that show? The crab fishing show? I can't remember what it's called. But those really big waves, that's part wind too. So it shapes the surface of the bodies of water, and it does have an effect a little bit underneath with the currents, right? So like the wind is kind of the catalyst for all of these other things to take place. And additionally, wind-driven currents play a crucial role in the circulation of water, which is really important to know, and it influences oceanic patterns and contributing to the dynamic balance of aquatic ecosystems. And we can think about how this would apply within the body, right? So we think about what is our internal water state, right? What does the effect of wind have on that, or air have on our internal states? Wind creates ocean currents, the transfer of energy to the water's surface. This is just like the scientific, like how this works, right? As the wind blows across the ocean, friction with the surface imparts momentum to the water, setting it in motion. Pay attention, okay? Setting it in motion and giving rise to currents that can span vast distances, influencing climate patterns and marine life. So this is a really great way to look at the threads, the connection of all things. And I often talk about the ripple, right? Like everything that we do, every action that we take, every word that we utter creates a ripple. It creates a ripple among what I call the threads, right? People call it the web. There's a whole, like the web of life, how all things are connected. And wind really has this amazing ability to completely just ignore any sort of rule, or anything that we may have. It just goes and does its thing. And you can see just from the physical action of wind on the ocean surface, how it has a profound and long-reaching effect. So we need to know that, and that is extremely important in the practice of witchcraft. Here's a reflection assignment. I will let you guys just read this yourself. I know there's a couple people that are like really against journaling. You don't have to journal, right? This is your journey. You don't have to do the things that you don't want to do. That's okay. And no judgment, right? Because we don't judge people. But I really want you to look at the differences between these two pictures and think about, no air. Well, there's always air, but no wind, still air versus active air. and what is the difference here, right? And then apply it to the practice of magic, of witchcraft. Oh, air and earth, right? Air and earth is neat. So air affects earth in many different ways. Earth, of course, in metaphysics is seen as the body or the heart center. And air is seen as the realm of intellect. Water is seen as the underworlds or the realm of emotion. So storms and cyclones, seed and pollen dispersal, erosion and weathering. And the erosion and weathering is actually going to be important for an exercise that's at the end of this presentation. So I want you guys to pay attention to, like, really think about it, really contemplate how wind can erode weather surfaces by transporting little teeny tiny particles. That is a really important thing to think about. And also, storms and cyclones, we often say people are a tornado, right? I'm feeling like a tornado. And what does that mean? What does that mean for you? How does that manifest itself physically from the internal state of wind or air? Right? Also, seed and pollen dispersal, right? These are the physical aspects of air and wind. And it's really important for us to understand the physical aspects, because then we understand we can apply them to our internal states. Also, energy generation, aeronautics is kind of cool, right? Flight of aircraft, aviation. So windbreaks and microclimates. You can use wind strategically, right? I really want you to pay attention to energy generation and windbreaks. You can apply these things strategically to help you along your path. And it's necessary that we understand the physical mechanics so that we can understand how these things work. Like when we are calling on wind or we're calling on air, what are we calling for? In what aspect are we wanting to create something, right? Why do we need that? This is important stuff and you need to write it down or think about it. Wind and fire, right? This is also fantastic. A lot of people are fascinated by fire. But what is it? And we'll get into what fire is in a different presentation, but this is just kind of a little bit. So the interaction between wind and fire is a dynamic and complex process. And this is true for our internal states of wind and fire as well, okay? That can have significant impacts on the behavior and spread of wildfires. Wind plays a crucial role in influencing the initiation, intensity, and direction of a fire. So what you want to do in this is you want to think about when we say something, something spread like wildfire, right? It could be information. It could be rumors or gossip, right? It could be any of that. And what feeling does that have to it? What is it? Hot? Is it cold? Is it like lukewarm? Is it, do you attribute it? Where do you attribute it to? So think about that. Think about, and also fire is seen as passion, right? Passion within the body. So when we're on fire, we're like doing really good, everything like that. So what effect does wind have or air have on that type of internal fire? Like, how does this work? How does this work? Right? And we're going to apply it too, because air is the realm of intellect. It's the realm of your upper world, right? So your head. And when we're in our heads, when we're angry and we're in our heads, what happens? How does air affect that state? It's really important that we know how everything works together. Okay, so here's just a little bit more on the physical action of air and fire. Please read these and then attribute all of these to internal states. So directional influence, that's important, the spread of it. Behavior changes, that's really important too, right? So wind influences how fire behaves. So how does it influence how our internal fire behaves, right? We're taking all of these things that we see and we're very familiar with in the outside world and giving them a place within our head, right? We're giving them a place within our body because we are witness to all of this. We just don't take the time to go within and really understand like how these things are working, how we can see it on the outside and also attribute it to the inside. It gives us more of an awareness of our internal state, which is really important. The air within. Right? The air within. Oxygenation of the blood is a vital physiological process that occurs in the lungs during respiration. Respiration is breathing. In the alveoli, tiny air sacs within the lungs, oxygen from the inhaled air diffuses across the thin walls into the bloodstream. And we need oxygen, right? We need air within our bodies. That is how, if we don't breathe, we're not alive, right? So that is a really vital thing to think about, right? If we don't have breath, if we don't have air, we're dead. It's really important. So this is a little bit about the like the scientific aspects of air within the body. Go ahead and read that. I'm sure most people know, but I put it in there anyway. So this one is interesting too. It talks a little bit about Ayurveda and TCM, which is traditional Chinese medicine. I'm a fan of both Ayurveda and TCM. I find them to be just a little bit more holistic than Western medicine, but also don't go off the rails, you guys. Okay, be smart. Be smart about stuff, especially health issues, right? Be smart about it. So the internal wind in the context of the human body is often associated with Ayurveda TCM. But in these systems, the concept of internal wind refers to the dynamic and vital force within the body that governs movement, communication, and adaptability. And that is really, really important for us to think about. So think about the how wind like not only moves not just our thoughts, right? Wind doesn't just move our thoughts, or air doesn't just move our thoughts. It moves all sorts of other things within the body. It's really important how these things can manifest, right, within, because when we start to learn about these elements, the elemental forces, then we can take a look within ourselves and be like, I feel really angry right now. Maybe I have an overabundance of the fire element. What can I do to bring that back into balance? You cool it down. You cool it down. If you're moving too fast, right, this movement here, the governs movement. If you're moving too fast in your thoughts or in your body, you feel hyper, very distractible, anything like that. Maybe you have an overabundance of wind energy at play within your body. So how can you bring that back into movement? Right? We can do things like meditation, yoga, breath work. Those types of things will help us calm ourselves back down and bring that wind energy back into balance, because when we're not in balance, we're not very effective at witchcraft. Well, okay, maybe that's not totally correct, but still, balance is key. Similar to external wind affecting the Earth's atmosphere, internal winds influences various physiological processes. And we just talked about a few of those. When in balance, internal wind is essential for the smooth functioning of bodily functions, right? So we need that movement. We need air, nerve impulses, circulation, flow of energy, right? We have, and I'll get into this more in spirit lessons, but we do have energy, like flows of energy within our body. They're called meridians, right? Energy meridians, and they run through our body. It's very close to the nervous system. So when we need wind, we need air in order to help all of these things function properly, to have our energy flow properly, to be able to think clearly. We need all of this movement within our bodies. There's a ton of moving parts in there. So we need that, but imbalances or disruptions can lead to health issues, tremors, spasms, nervous systems disorders, which we just talked about. So think about anxiety. You're like, race, like it's characterized by racing thoughts, by hyperactivity. You're unable to sit still. You're twitchy. Like that's severe anxiety, and that could be an imbalance of wind. I say could be because I really don't want to, I am not a mental health professional, nor am I a medical professional. And so none of this should be taken as medical or mental health advice. And you should always be smart about it. Be smart about it and get professional help if you need professional help. This is just the metaphysicals, okay? But think about how imbalances in internal wind can lead to things. All right, so we have a few slides that are contemplation journaling exercises. You guys can go ahead and read these and then, excuse me, do the exercises. Some of them are a little bit more challenging as we move along through these realms. Things are going to get more challenging because you need to be going deeper, right? It's all about the depth here. So we just talk about water, fire, and earth within the body and how wind can affect those in this slide. So you need to be thinking about this. You can art it out or whatever, but yeah, think about that stuff. Wind exercises. So this last part, I'm going to explain the actual practice itself. So if you stand 12 inches, so a foot from a plant or a wind chime is a little bit easier because you can hear it and it's a little bit harder to move, but you can start with a plant if you'd like. But we want to use your breath. So you, right, blow and use your breath to move the wind chime or the plant. Now you want to move back, right? Now back up a couple inches, do it again. Do it again. Does it take more effort? Now keep moving back until your breath no longer affects the object. So you want to move back far enough where you are not, and do it a little bit at a time, couple inches at a time, okay? Maybe a foot at a time. And you want to really pay attention to how far away you are from something in order to move it with your breath. Okay, just physically, you're just like, I'm just gonna move this plant. Now, the next part of this is like a part 2. I didn't put it as a part 2, but it is a part 2. You want to set your intention. This is important, right? Because this is a magical practice. This is a practice of witchcraft. You want to set your intention to move the plant or wind chime. And you want to really, and this is important, you guys, this is how we get stuff done, okay? We want to fully sense, picture, or visualize. And I put it like that because there are people who experience aphantasia. They can't visualize in their head, but that doesn't mean that they can't practice effective witchcraft, right? They absolutely can. So fully sense, picture, or visualize your breath traveling to the object. And then you want to blow with that picture, right? Or that sense, that feeling, whatever in your head of this is what this is going to do. And that is one of the witchcraft practices of using air, right? We use air for all sorts of stuff. We use air to charge our sigils. We use air in meditation, in ritual, in mantra. We use air within. We call on air if we're, casting a circle in a traditional way. We call on all of these things, and we need to understand what the heck it is that we're doing. What are we bringing in? And how can we use our breath? How can we use our internal winds, this gift that we have, part of our connection to nature, in order to affect change in the outside world according to our will? That's important, right? Now, write down or notice the differences and keep practicing because this is not easy. So keep practicing. And then, of course, a reflection because everything is about going within and noticing our internal state. So go ahead and read those. The second one here, make a list of all the ways you're out of balance internally. Okay, so this could be anything that you sense, and be brutally honest. Don't skimp on this, right? Because you're not sharing it with me. You're not sharing it with anyone else unless you want to, which of course you can. You're not sharing it with anything else, with anyone else. So be brutally honest with yourself. The path of witchcraft, the practice of witchcraft is more than anything, it is about self-knowledge. It's about an awareness, a conscious awareness of our internal state, right? Of our internal power and our connection to nature. Super important, you guys. Okay. I hope you have enjoyed this. If you have any questions, you know what to do. Just message me or whatever. All right. Blessed be. Everyone have a beautiful Sunday.